2020 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. First up is the approval of our minutes from May 6th. Actually, what I need to do first is get a roll call, make sure we've acknowledged for the record that all the commissioners are here. And seeing you all on screen, I can say that we're all here tonight with the exception of alternate Sharon Cantrell. So with that, we can move on to the approval of our minutes from May 6th. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of May 6, 2020 as read into the record.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel?
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman?
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. And that takes us to our site plan agenda. We have one of those tonight, and I think Jasmine needs to come on to the screen to set that one up. Good evening, Jasmine.
Good evening. So this is a continuation of amendment to final site plan application AFP-8416-2020. The applicant's requesting approval to construct 8,828 square foot of interior office, laboratory, mezzanine space within an existing building and minor site revisions located at 930 Klopper Road. As part of this application, the applicant is requesting a parking waiver for 18 parking spaces. So the Planning Commission reviewed the site plan during the May 6th meeting and kept the record open until 5 p.m. on May 14th. During the course of the meeting, there was discussion about the parking waiver requests, temporary construction trailers, and the increased capacity within the new space. There was no testimony from the public during the course of the public hearing, and at the time of the Commission's record closing, no further testimony was received. The applicant has submitted revised site plans, which are exhibits 8 and 9 in the packet. And can I have sheet packet 82, please? And you can see here the applicant has revised the plans to satisfy staff conditions that were noted in the May 6 staff analysis. The revisions included restriping the north section of the property in accordance with the city code, provide a front gate for the proposed trash enclosure, and provide missing labels on the site plan. In conclusion, staff is supportive of the proposed plans. The plans further assist the operations of Kite Pharma and will not adversely impact the adjacent communities. Staff is also supportive of the 18 parking space waiver request. Staff's opinion that the existing parking lot is adequate to serve the needs of Kite Pharma. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have this evening, and we do have the project team also here this evening.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, commissioners, any questions on the recommendation or the wrap up? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads.
I just have one. Now, does this also show where like all of the materials will be staged as well? Because that was one of the questions that I had last time.
On the site plan?
Yeah.
You might staging.
Like the materials, there'll probably be a lot of construction materials. And I know you have you showing where the trailers are going to be, but what about like construction materials? I guess they'll be kind of fenced off or something like that.
Yeah, I'm understanding that will be handled when they submit for permits and meet with our building staff when it comes to the construction.
All right, and I mean, but my concern was, will that impact, further impact parking? I mean, I know it's a temporary situation, but will that impact parking? Or how will it impact parking?
Yeah, I saw Byron.
Yeah, Danny, I can try to shed some light on that. So we are in the process of entertaining bids from general contractors, and of course they all have different plans for how they would fence the area and store equipment. It would impact parking to some degree on the east end of the building while we're doing the construction. We have some off-site swing space that we're swinging staff from the building into that has its own parking. So that shouldn't be a net parking issue. And then some of the proposals we're looking at are to do as much of the off-site, like prefabrication of materials and whatnot, so that we don't have to take up as much space on the site when we're doing the construction.
Okay, all right, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Any other questions, commissioners? All right. Jasmine, did you officially read the recommended motions?
Yep, I can go right ahead and read those.
Okay, thank you.
So staff recommends that the planning commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant AFP-8416-2020 final site plan approval, provided in conformance with sections 24-170 and 24-171 of the city zoning ordinance. And the second motion is staff recommends that the planning commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant an 18 parking space waiver, provided in conformance with section 24-222A of the city zoning ordinance.
Great, thank you. Well, commissioners, I think based on our initial presentation and our questions and the kind of the line of things and what there has been in the presentation since to follow up, this seems like a really solid application. Great thing that's happening, that the business is able to expand and do some investment in the facility. And I don't see any real issues on the parking reduction either, given some of the evidence that was presented about the true parking demand on the site. So I'm anxious to hear everybody else's comments on this, but it seems like it's a really solid and welcome project for the city.
Well, if Danny's happy, I'm happy.
No, it's pretty straightforward. I don't have any problems with this.
Great.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Great, it's a great application, very thorough, considering the amount of development that is involved here. And I'm again repeating what we talked about 2 weeks ago, but very supportive of the parking reduction at 10% of overall parking requirements. I think it's great. It's great for whatever this use happens to end up being 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it is.
I have a question. Will it be bike racks provided, additional bike racks?
Jonathan, did you want to answer that question? You're on mute.
I froze for a second. Could you just repeat the question?
I wanted to know if there were additional bike racks that are going to be provided in lieu of the fact that we're losing 18 parking spaces.
Gary, I don't know if we had any additional bike racks. Because
so with the 2018 amendment, there were a couple additional bike racks, and I don't know, Jasmine, if you have the exact number handy, but we are not, since we're not changing the parking, we're not changing the number of bike racks, but there were a few additional ones added last year.
Just a suggestion, in lieu of what we've been going through these last 2 months, there seems to be a plethora of articles being written about bicycles, increased use of bicycles.
That's true.
And I think there'll be a lot of, not a lot, but I'm sure there are some employees who live within range of being able to ride a bike, particularly in light of the fact that we'll have the Watkins Mill Exchange open probably in the next couple of weeks, if not months. Mm-hmm. And that would also facilitate bike riding. I just like to encourage the enhancement of the property with more bike racks. I wouldn't make it a provision or anything, or a condition, but I just think that would be a good application.
Yeah, noted. Thank you.
I do want to know, on their site plan, they identified 7 bike racks for this site.
Okay, well, I think it would behoove you to have a few more added in there at some point.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lloyd. Any other comments or concerns? Okay. Then we have 2 motions on this application. The first is for the site plan itself. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report findings and recommendation, I move that we, the Planning Commission, grant AFP 8416-2020 final site plan approval, finding it in conformance with section 24-170 and 24-171 of the city code, of the city zoning ordinance, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Second.
All right, thank you. It's moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel?
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman?
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. Thank you very much. The next motion is for the parking waiver. Is there a motion, please?
Chairman, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report findings and recommendation, I move that the Planning Commission grant an 18 parking space waiver, finding it in conformance with section 24-222A of the city's zoning ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. This is exciting to see,
Yeah.
see this happening in the city. So good luck and
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
thanks all.
Thank you very much.
All right, short agenda tonight. That takes us now to from the commission. And I guess I can just sort of start across the top. Commissioner Wessel, anything tonight?
Nothing for me this evening.
All right, Matt, anything tonight?
Nothing for me. Quiet week.
Okay, Lloyd?
I'd just like some clarification from staff on this. Not relating to any specific inquiry, but I did receive an inquiry the other day from a magazine or a newspaper, and not feeling comfortable with responding, I responded by referring them to John at Planning to refer to directly to the city. I just wanted a clarification on that, John Schlichting, if you can, to just state how we should respond and when it is appropriate for us to respond as planning commissioners representing the city.
Well, I think if you do respond, and I think it's really up to the commissioners whether they want to respond or not, you just make it clear you're responding as an individual commissioner and not representing the commission or the city.
Thank you, John. That's clarification I wanted. Thank you.
Great
I
point.
did refer them to you, by the way.
Yes, and I spoke to them and I got quoted.
Good.
They got the story straight, so that's the good news.
Wasn't fake news.
Right.
All right, thanks. Danny, anything tonight?
I just want to just thank the mayor and city council and the city staff. I mean, things have been rolling along despite, all the COVID-19 pandemic stuff that's going on, and we haven't missed a beat. And it's really wonderful to live in a city and be a part of a city that's so on. So thanks, John, and your entire staff and just everyone. It's really, things are just rolling along there. That's it for me. Oh, and Miriam, I know we've missed Miriam, but she's still doing our minutes. And Miriam, if you're watching, hi, we miss you.
It's a great point. Thanks for mentioning that, Danny. And one of the examples of the city keeping it up, the book festival, the annual book festival kicked off this past Saturday, and they've been conducting virtual sessions and workshops. I've been able to duck in on a couple of those, and it's happening.
Yeah.
Even under these unusual circumstances. And that's, I think, just a perfect example of all that's going on in the city, even though things are obviously under some pretty tight constraints right now. So all around nice work.
Yeah.
All right. We have a couple of, who's talking? Somebody up? Okay. We have a couple things from staff. Greg, do you want to pick this up now?
That would be me.
It's actually Jasmine's going to.
Oh, Jasmine, okay.
Items, yes.
Okay, so the first one's the annual planning report worksheet. As you remember, every year staff puts together the annual report worksheet that we're required to submit to the Maryland State Department of Planning. So the 2019 worksheet was included in the packet for your review. And I would like to thank Kirk Eby, who fills out these worksheets every year. Staff will be back to the Planning Commission at a later date to present the illustrative report. We're still currently working on that. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we need a motion to approve the worksheet.
Okay, just two quick things to clarify. I noticed there was an optional section about there's a planning survey toward the end. Is there a reason you guys don't end up answering those questions? It's just a few, it seems like it's just a few kind of, lightweight, how things are going type of questions, but I noticed they hadn't been completed.
No, I don't believe, those are just some additional things.
Yeah, it said optional on the title, yeah.
Yep, it's optional.
Right. And then the other thing, I just kind of for the record, so people understand, all of the projects that are listed, it's kind of early in the questionnaire, early in early in the report. I assume all those come from a database dump that you guys have access to. It's not something where you're going around at each table and trying to find out what people remember from last year. It's a pretty comprehensive list, I guess, dumped right from the agenda database.
If that's correct, every application comes in, gets a number, and it's in our database.
Great. Okay.
That way I can go back and look at, all right, here's plans that were issued between January of this date to December of this date.
Yeah. Great. Okay, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions? By the way, great job. I mean, I think it's impressive to see all the work you guys have done over the course of the last year, but it comes to life when somebody like the state comes in and says, well, write it all down and show us. And it's a pretty impressive body of work. Any other questions or comments for Jasmine? No. All right, so we need a motion to approve the 2019 annual planning report worksheet. I guess, is that what you're looking for, Jasmine?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the planning report worksheet as presented.
Second.
All right, just for the record, Commissioner Wessel,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye as well. Thanks a lot, Jasmine. Are you taking the next one?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
So last I have from staff is the Fitzgerald Automall Toyota Canopy. So pursuant to section 24-172A, subsection B3J of the City Code, amendment to final site plan can be delegated by the City Planning Commission to staff as a minor amendment. The Fitzgerald Automall, located at 907 North Frederick Avenue, is requesting to install 2 canopies which measure approximately 24 feet by 30 feet. The canopies will be located on the east and west side of the existing Toyota dealership building. Upon review of the requested amendment, staff is of the opinion that the proposed change is minor and as such is requesting that the Planning Commission concur and direct staff to make a final decision on the amendment. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on this memo.
Okay. Any questions for Jasmine?
Makes sense to me. Scale, the position in the site relative to the neighbors, this integration with the existing architecture. I think it's a great one to delegate to staff.
I agree. Okay.
Agreed.
Unless anybody disagrees, I think we have a pretty clear direction that have staff take that one on. Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you.
All right. You don't need a formal motion, right?
I mean, do I need a formal motion for that?
I would say yes, since you are delegating the authority to staff.
Yeah, it is being delegated under the code, so that would be a good idea.
Okay. So we need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we delegate, let's see, does this thing have a name? I'm looking at the report, Jasmine. Does it have an AFP name?
No, not yet, but it's the Fitzgerald Automall Toyota Canopy.
Okay, I move that we delegate the Fitzgerald Automall or Toyota Canopy to staff as recommended.
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel.
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman.
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That probably took longer to do that than, I don't know, it'll take you to look at it and approve it, but there you go. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Anything else, Jasmine, from your side?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, Greg, anything tonight?
Yes, I have a couple things tonight. One, I just want to kind of give an update to the commission. We are currently looking at ways to allow temporary outdoor seating for restaurants within either parking lots or within the city's public right-of-ways. We very early on this, we just started the internal discussion on it, and I'm trying to find ways to facilitate restaurants, obviously with the future, with social distancing and some restrictions that may occur when restaurants do start opening up again. Obviously, so we just want to kind of get the commission in the loop tonight on this, that we're looking at it. And also just let you know that we're probably going to be coming back to you at a later date. There may be some delegated authority we'd be looking for from you to allow staff maybe grant some type of waivers, parking waivers, or approve the temporary outdoor seating. Again, to try to help, speed up the process a bit. Again, we just kind of wanted to see what the commission's thoughts were on this tonight as well.
I can start. Supportive, certainly, and I think based on a lot of data that we've all been crunching for the last couple months, we won't see the kind of parking ratios that we base a lot of our parking lots around for could be a year. So until really there's a vaccine and they're safe, we won't get back to those full levels. So anything we can do to increase the usability and the safety of our public eating and food and beverage and entertainment establishments is wonderful. And I think the fact that it might take parking spaces and some drive aisle space is exactly the right thing to use up when the density isn't being hit. So it's perfect.
Hey, Greg, any idea about providing for inclement weather conditions? I mean, it is December time. We're going to be eating outside, but if it rains, a storm comes in, how does a restaurant provide for that?
That's something else we're still looking at, about temporary structures, again, maybe being a canopy or something along those lines. Obviously, there's some requirements that need to be looked at, like for fire code requirements and city code, building code requirements, but it is being examined as well as part of this.
Good.
Great.
Bring your own poncho.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because I think it's going to come, it'll come in waves when restaurant owners want to reopen, and to try to put that through a formal process on our agenda would just be unwieldy. So I think it makes perfect sense to come up with some guidelines to do that at a staff level.
Yeah, like I said, we will definitely be back to you, I would imagine, hopefully soon, with some suggestions and with some guidelines possibly on what could be delegated to staff.
Great.
All right, then I have 2 dates for you. We have a joint public hearing scheduled for a sketch plan for 700 North Frederick. That will be on June 15th. I don't believe Miriam has emailed you yet. I would imagine that'll be coming out soon. And our next planning commission meeting is June 3rd.
Okay. John Schlichting, did you have anything this evening?
Yes, I had a few things. First of all, on Greg's first item there, we're kind of excited about that, and we're probably going to try to come back to you at your next meeting so that we can really get this rolling, because we think restaurants are probably going to start opening up June 8th. And I did circulate an article yesterday, and I will happy circulate it to you all, and I should have already, but it's an article about a chef in Virginia who is starting on Friday. He's going to be serving tasting menus in his parking lot with paired wines. So, and I thought that's the kind of thing we need in Gaithersburg, right?
Yes, indeed.
Good.
I did want to report that at Monday's council meeting, the mayor and council did vote to grant WRS, the owner of the core of Lake Forest Mall, another 90-day extension of the development agreements that we've signed up with them. Right. And, that was largely based on the fact that the city or the entire world shut down very shortly after they granted the last 90-day extension. So the council felt it was important to give them that extra time to buy the anchors.
Sure.
And speaking of the last 90 days, we are finalizing the phase service restoration plan for the city. Again, we anticipate that really beginning probably January or June 8th. The plan is for the city as a whole, but each department also has an individual plan that will be attached. I will say that planning is the only division in the city that never suspended any services to our residents. And I thank Greg and Rob Robinson and all the planning staff for being on top of it. There were, city employees have been getting administrative leave for time that is spent that they don't have any work to do. Planning had no administrative leave during the entire period. So I think that's pretty impressive. The other thing just to mention related to this is that you can assume that all public meetings at the city will be virtual at least through June. So you got several more of these coming your way. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Great. All right. Anything else from anyone tonight? I'm getting an echo, I guess, from somewhere. Anybody have any? Oh, Frank, go ahead.
Sure. I'll just, I will point out the the city attorney's office has also been providing service, but we don't provide those directly to residents. So that's not a dispute to what John said.
I'm sorry,
I will
Frank.
say
Should have
that's
given
quite
you
a-
the credit too.
not at all. You did point out it was directly to city service, and I've observed some of the ongoing services as well. The in terms of open meetings, which is something that I've done training on, as you all know, well, there's been a lot of interest in open meetings training, particularly dealing with what we're doing tonight, the virtual meetings, to try to get our work done, to try to allow public access in this time of social distancing. And the Academy for Excellence, which is with the University of Maryland, involves MACO and MML. We had a record number of listeners. They believe it was a record, partly because every other meeting has always been in person. There were 168 for virtual training last Friday. We're going to do another very similar one through the State Bar Association next Friday, the 29th. And then we will do an overall open meetings training as part of the MML virtual conference at the end of June. And that will include an awful lot of the same information in terms of how do we operate in a virtual setting. So lots of interest out there, and certainly opportunities if anybody's interested. And the Academy training was recorded. I think you guys we're all pretty well covered because Brian and IT are taking care of us pretty well, and certainly serving as an example. But if anybody's interested in the recording, just let me know and we'll make sure to get that to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Frank. All right. Is there anything else from anybody tonight? All right. If not, everyone, please have a good evening and a good healthy time until our next meeting. We are adjourned.